Okay, so everybody, welcome back. This is the second session of Miss Sunny's web application pen test class. Miss Sunny Ware is here, of course. If you are watching this one and like, where's the first one? It's in the playlist, probably called episode 1, somewhere in the playlist. So you can always go back if you haven't seen that one yet and watch that one first. So going to get started. Go ahead, Miss Sunny, take it away.
All right, thank you, Brian. So welcome to session 2 of our web app burp class. So first of all, what I would like to do is go through your homework assignments and solve those with you. So the first homework challenge asked you to brute force to find some hidden folders. Now, some of you very astutely realized that the picture that I have here is not something that is available in the free version of burp, although you may not have realized that it was the difference between pro and free, but it doesn't really matter because we are going to solve this puzzle by using Intruder in the same exact way that we did in session 1. So let's go ahead and go through that now. If you will, make sure that you are logged in. It doesn't really matter what account. If you want to use the admin Juice Shop account with the password of admin123, that would be fine. But you can see I'm already logged in, and I have already set up my scope. And of course, we did all of these things in session 1, so if you need to go back to remind yourself of how to do that. Now, what you want to do is to solve this puzzle, go to your proxy HTTP history and try to find where you just have the root directory in your history. And if you don't have that there, you can certainly just go to localhost port 3000 and hit enter. Now, what I want you to do with this request is right-click and send that over to Intruder. Now, in the Intruder tab, what we're going to do is, in our positions, I want you to go ahead and clear out the substitution fields that are done for you automatically. Instead, I want you to focus on this get root. And what I did is, or what I do if I'm trying to look for something specific is, and there's nothing there, I just put like a letter, some sort of letter, to designate that I'm going to brute force the value that follows the root directory. So I put the letter X. I'm going to add my substitution field. Now let's go to the payloads. We can just use a simple list because the list I built for you is very small. What you're going to do is load that up, and the location is given, and I'll just go back to the notes here. User share wordless derb wordless myjuicebox.txt. So we're going to go ahead and load that up. You can see there aren't many items in there. Please make sure that you uncheck the URL encode of the characters. I do not want that. We won't have any options this time. Let's go ahead and start our attack. Okay, now this time we don't have any banners that actually pop up, but what we do have is some good information if we take a look. So here we've got a status 200. What exactly did we get on our response? Let's take a look. So I go to the response tab and let's just see how it renders. This looks very interesting, right? It looks like there's a whole set of files. So bear that in mind. How about the next 200? This also looks very promising. So apparently the Juice Shop has, in addition to the web application, it's got an API call interface. This might be something we want to take a look at. And then there's the REST call for authentication details, which looks like we're not authorized to actually view through a browser, which means we probably need some sort of OAuth token in order to view that. All right, let's start with the first one, FTP. So if you go ahead and open your browser to that location, So that's localhost port 3000/FTP, and you'll see that there are tons of files here. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and try to download each of these files. So acquisitions.md, let's go ahead and save that. And you can just have it saved at the default location. We'll go there later on the disk. This is actually a KeyPass database, which we will be hacking in session 3. So let's go ahead and save that file. There's a coupons file, which looks quite interesting. Let's see if we can download that. Hey, wait a minute. It says that we're only allowed to download file extensions of MD and PDF. All right, bear that in mind. We'll come back to that in a moment. Let's download this legal file. That kind of looks interesting. How about this Easter egg? Oh, can't do that one. And how about this JSON? Okay, can't do that one either. But if we go to our scoreboard, it looks like we did solve one of the puzzles. Now, let's skip the API. Let's go to this pound administration. So if we open up another tab, and I'm actually just going to use this tab, and we go there. Wow, so this is an area that is supposed to be restricted to only the admins. It's not directly mapped off of the application, so spidering for it, you probably wouldn't be able to find it. So brute forcing for administrative areas is a common technique. You'll see it a lot on CTFs. And actually, it still happens even still in real applications. So this is very helpful. We're definitely going to come back to this page for some later challenges. And so we got credit for that. Okay. Now the next one is a reflected cross-site scripting attack, which is quite easy. I'm sure everybody got this one right. All you need to do is copy their particular payload, and that is important for all of these challenges for the cross-site scripting, is that you use their payload. We only have, right now, on the first page, we just have this one search box, so let's just see. And it is indeed susceptible to reflected cross-site scripting. So, so that is now done. Let's get rid of this. By the way, of course, the difference between reflected and stored is reflected, it just occurs in your browser to the one victim at a time. Stored, of course, it becomes permanently part of the page. We will see that in our later session. All right, let's go to the next one. This one was probably, oh, this is the one with the administrative section of the store, which of course we've already seen. So we had solved that puzzle already. Now the last homework challenge is number 4, which is probably the hardest. What we want to do with this one is we want to use the browser to help us solve this. So if we go back to the main page, and we're looking for something that has Christmas in it, right? So if I type Christmas here, right, I don't get anything back. Okay, well that's not terribly helpful. What I really want to know as an attacker is this application susceptible to SQL injection? So one of the first things that you want to do is put a tick, and let's just follow our tick by the end of our statement, which in SQL is a semicolon. So let's just put that in the search. Okay, we still don't get back anything. However, if you press F12, and you notice in the console, I'm in the console view of the developer tools, you'll notice that there is an error object here. Go ahead and click that error object, And you'll notice over here that we have the SQL statement that was actually run on the back end. Now, if you double click that, you can select all, and then you can copy that. And I want to actually paste that in here. So let's take a look at that SQL statement. And I'm not sure why that... Okay, so what this tells us is anything that gets typed in is going to be placed in the like statement. So we've got a name, it's searching on the column name and it's searching on the column description. And it's looking for, you know, we would be looking for Christmas. So if we want to actually do our SQL injection, what we would need to do is end this statement in an abrupt way. The one thing too that I want you to notice is that there's a deleted at is null. So there's a soft delete in the database, which is the reason why we're able to actually do this challenge. So what we want to do is we actually want to fake out our SQL statement by ending it abruptly. So we can do that by tacking on a percentage sign, right, which is used in our like statement. Now, one of the problems with percent is we may run into some Unicode or UTF character set problems. So we could also use 25. 25 being the Unicode representation of percent, just to make sure that we're showing a percent, right? Because we definitely want that. We definitely want our ending tick, because that's going to end our statement. And then if you look at the rest of this, okay, we've got a closing parentheses here and a closing parentheses here. So if we wanted to end this, we would close out the rest of that, mimicking what we have at the end here. And of course, we don't want the rest of the statement, so we do our dash dash to comment out the end of this. So that gives us this as our actual construction of SQL. So we go back to the search. Let's close this. Paste that in. And now we can see the Christmas special. So what you need to do is go ahead and put that in your cart, and you need to actually do a checkout in order to get credit for the puzzle. And you can see that we have credit there. So hopefully you'll be able to use those types of techniques even on some of your pen tests to look for you know, hidden ways that you can find out the construction of SQL that's being done on the back end.
So, Sunny, soft delete seemed to be a bad idea. I haven't seen anything where it's like it's a positive on any of the blogs that I've seen. So why would they want to enable this kind of thing? Is this like a keeps somebody from doing Bobby drop tables or why would a company introduce soft deletes?
Well, you know, the Christmas special, if it didn't have a date to it, I could kind of see why they would do a soft delete. You know, so if you always want your Christmas special available late November, then, you know, you probably don't want to delete it, right? Just hide it. In this particular case, they tied it to a certain year, so I'm not sure why they did that. But yeah, in general, soft delete's really bad idea, unless of course you're doing audit tables or, you know, different reasons for never wanting something deleted. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
Is there any way to tell when you're on an engagement that soft deletes are enabled on a box?
Unless you were to search for some sort of keywords in a word list, And it probably depends on the context as well. So for instance, this is a catalog of goods. So looking for something seasonal would make sense, but it would be different. It could be different for another context. So I would have to say it depends. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I didn't know if there was a configuration thing, or maybe that's a question you would ask during the appraisal. Some of the questions about the front end technology. If you could ask that kind of question, if that'd be useful.
Oh,
I didn't know.
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. It should be contextual if you're doing a gray box test. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so continuing now, back with our notes. And actually, slide 7 gives you the rundown of what I just showed. So feel free to go through that again on your own. Now let's talk about session management issues. So one of the problems with HTTP that we all know is it does not have the concept of state. So as you flow from page to page, the burden is left up to the developer or the designer of the web application to determine how to follow that user, how to track that user through the web application. Now the problem with that is it can introduce a lot of flaws in the implementation, in the code itself. So the next set of challenges are really some flaws that we'll find in the juice shop because of poor implementation done by the developers or the design. Okay, so the first exercise is we're going to access someone else's basket. Now, in order to do this challenge, what we're going to do is we're going to put some items in our shopping cart. We're going to turn on the proxy intercept button, and then we're going to load our basket. So let's go ahead and do that now. So the first thing we want to do, make sure that you're logged in and go ahead and put some items in your basket. By the way, if you ever are doing a lot of things inside of the juice box and it's not responding or you don't see items being placed in your basket, just shut down your browser and start your browser again, and it should start behaving better for you. Okay, so we've put some items in our basket. Now, before we click the Your Basket button, let's close our, I thought I had, yeah. Let's go ahead and close Intruder. We don't need that anymore. So if we go to our Proxy tab, go to the Intercept tab. Now, when we turn the Intercept on, it's going to actually stop the request midway before it goes to the web server. So let's go ahead and click Your Basket. All right, it's going to give you some WebSocket stuff. Just forward that until you actually come to the basket. Okay, and you'll know that you're at the basket because you'll see a GET. It is a REST call. So REST basket, and then you see the number that is the designation of the admin's basket. So if we just change that number arbitrarily to a different number, let's see what kind of response we get. We actually access somebody else's basket, and you can see that they were buying a Raspberry Pi with water and sugar. Okay, so pretty poor implementation for session management there. Let's look at the next challenge. This is an exercise where we're going to put feedback in someone else's name. Now we're going to use the Contact Us form in order to do this challenge. As I had mentioned, it's really important that you test out all of the forms when you do an assessment. So here's Contact Us. So we're going to put a comment here. This place stinks. Okay. And we have to give it a rating because we're not allowed to submit until we put at least 1 star there. Now what we're going to do is turn our proxy intercept on. Let's go ahead and submit that. And you should see a post for API feedbacks. You'll notice down here very clearly we can manipulate the user ID. So we can change that from a 1 to a 2 or a 3 or a 4, whatever you like, and then forward that on. And we were able to very easily manipulate that. Now, in both of these instances, the developers, of course, very poorly are tracking their users with, easy numbers to guess. And then they're not doing any kind of a authorization check on the back end. Every one of us, when you log in, you get a token. So they could have very easily made this a little more robust. All right, now let's talk about untrustable values that could be used in a security decision. I see this quite a bit in applications where a lot of header values are being used in order to determine maybe where the client is coming from or what type of browser they're using. Are they using a phone? Are they using a desktop, etc.? But all of these values, anything coming from the client can be changed and should not be trusted. So in this particular, in the couple of challenges we're going to take a look at now, we're actually going to bypass OAuth. Now, one thing I want to say is if you're a developer and you know a lot about OAuth, the implementation that is being done in the juice shop of OAuth, it's not OAuth. I mean, it has some, they are doing bearer tokens, but there's some parts of it that are just not implemented the way that we would normally implement OAuth. So I just wanted to say that up front, but they do use authorization server to generate tokens. So that part of it they are doing right. So just in case there's some experts out there in OAuth. So what we're going to do is we're going to log in with Beyond's user account. But the way that we're going to do that is we're not going to change his password. We're not going to apply SQL injection. And we're not going to hack his Google account, which is he's probably relieved by that. How you're going to do this is we're going to need to go back to that authentication page, and we will take a look at what his particular login is and what the developers have done. And you would only know this, of course, if you did a white box or a crystal box test, is that in the code they're using a user's initial login or their username, and they're just base64ing it, and then that's their password. So not very good implementation, right? So let's take a look at what that looks like. So if we come back to this administrative page that we saw before, you can see that here is Beyond's email account, right? And he's got some Google Mail that, it's supposed to be simulating his Gmail. So what we could do is, and as I said, you would only know this through crystal boxing, but if you go into Burp and you go to the decoder tab, after you copy that to your clipboard, just do a Control-V, and we can do encoding of base64 right here. So let's just encode base64. And then select all of that, Control-C. Now let's go back to our page where we were shopping. Let's log out and let's log back in. And I'm going to copy his email account. Control-C, Control-V. Okay, so so we were able to solve that puzzle, and if you have the time, which I don't have the source code referenced here, but if you have the time and you get interested in learning how this application was written, all of the code is available on GitHub, which I think is another point of the exercise. Even if you're not on a white or crystal box pen test, a lot of times developers will go out to the internet and use stuff that's available on GitHub. So just keep that in mind too whenever you're doing assessments. All right, let's take a look at the next one. This time we want to exploit OAuth 2.0 to log in as the Chief Information Security Officer's user account. Now, this one you would have had to run some actual REST calls. We're going to be doing REST calls in session 3 quite a bit, but because this one was related to session management, I put it here. We can actually do this through Burp. We don't have to use Postman yet, but we'll use Postman in session 3. So how we go about solving this one is, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and go to our proxy HTTP history. Scroll down to the end when you logged in as Beyond. Okay, so you should see a post that goes against REST user login with the password and the email. Go ahead and right-click and send that to your repeater. Okay. Now with repeater, what we want to do, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. What we want to do is we want to actually add that OAuth designation that we would see if we were to try this through Postman or some other REST API client. So we have to add the designation that we're using OAuth, and that is done by you add a comma, and then you're going to add OAuth, and a colon, and a boolean true. And there we go. Okay, make sure you spell OAuth correctly. The other thing that we want to do, and this is where the making security decisions based on an untrustable value comes in. We want to go to this header tab. We're going to add a new header that's only added for an OAuth call. And that header, if you look at the code on GitHub, is X user email. Now, since we're trying to log in as the CISO, let's just go ahead and put that there. So we're going to put CISO at juice-sh.op. Okay, so we take a look at that in the raw tab. That all looks good. So let's go ahead and click go. All right, and we do indeed get a good token for our CISO. So, and if you've done any assessments against web services or REST calls, they do take a lot of time. You have to be very patient with them and try a lot of different things. So this actually wouldn't be, this would not be something that's far-fetched. It would be something that certainly I would try. I've definitely tried custom headers in REST calls, and if for anything else, to see what kind of errors I get. Maybe it divulges some more information. So bear that in mind. And if you take a look at slide 14, that's a little bit of the taste of what's available on GitHub that you would find, right? And you can basically see that there's a bunch of if-else statements that the developers are looking for in regards to this custom header. All right, now let's talk about poor server-side validation exploits. So one of the things that you should know is, though burp and some of these other tools that we use to perform pen testing are excellent tools, they really can't find design flaws. And when it comes to logic errors, this is something that you would have to actually dig into an application and find yourself. So how we're going to do this is, there's a challenge called place an order that makes you rich. So this is really an exploitation of a logic flaw. How we're going to do this is, we're going to put some items in our shopping cart. We're going to turn on our proxy intercept after we look at our cart, and then we're going to add some items in the quantity and manipulate the numbers. So let's go ahead and do this together. So we'll go back to shopping. Let's go ahead and put a bunch of items in our cart. Okay, and we'll take a look at our cart. Now, let's go over to the proxy tab, and let's go ahead and put intercept on. And let's click this plus sign. Okay, you need to forward until you reach the JSON structure that is quantity. Now, the quantity here is 3, but we want to change this and exploit a logic error by placing a negative number there. And since it's negative, let's just make it a lot larger. How about 3,000? Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and forward my traffic and turn my proxy intercept off. And what you can notice here is that they're actually paying us to go shopping. So that is a great thing, right? Now, in order to get credit for this challenge, you do need to go ahead and check out. And if you go to the scoreboard, you should see place an order that makes you rich. And I think I had mentioned this before, but if you don't see the solved buttons, just go ahead and refresh it, and then you'll start to see them. All right, so now let's talk about bypassing client-side validation. So client-side validation, of course, is usually in the form of JavaScript or even HTML. If you've got like max lengths that are set at the client tier, these things can very easily be manipulated and changed to an attacker's control. Also, hidden fields, which is probably not a very good name for them, but hidden fields which pass parameters between pages. This is commonly done. And so as an attacker, especially using burp, you can highlight these. I showed you how to set that setting in the last session. But experiment with those fields. If you see a hidden field that says false, turn it to true and then submit and see if you get access to something that you didn't before. Those types of things. So let's go ahead and apply that knowledge to what we have in our juice shop. So here we have a challenge. It says, give a devastating 0-star feedback to the store. Now, I really like this challenge because there are actually 2 different ways that you can go about solving it. So let's do the hard way first. So what you'll notice is if you go to the Contact Us page, one of the things that I had mentioned is that after you put a comment here, so we'll just put a comment, this is the harder way to solve. Before you can click submit, you must put at least 1 star. So the challenge says, well, we don't want to have to do that. So can we bypass any kind of client-side validation on this page to get around that. And certainly you can. What I would like for you to do is hit F12. And I'll just make this a little bit bigger so we can see. And there's a tool that you can use, this inspector. I want you to click that and click the button. Now when you click the button, it immediately takes you down to where that code is on the page for that button. If you look at the details of the button, you will notice that there's actually an AngularJS class here, ng-disabled, and then it's got the form that it's invalid. What I'd like for you to do is double click that and start deleting. So everywhere that it has the name value pair, just delete that. Okay, and there's another disabled here, and let's just go ahead and delete that. Okay, so now I am able to freely click this button and I don't have to set a rating anymore. Okay, so that's one way that we can solve this puzzle. There's another way that you can solve it, and if you refresh the page or reload the page, it'll bring back the client-side validation. The other way that we could do this is this is the easy way. We set 1 star, but before we click submit, we turn on our proxy intercept. Okay, and then we submit. And in the JSON structure, we can change the rating from a 1 down to a 0, and then forward our request. So that's yet another way to do the same puzzle. All right, so now let's start working through all of those file downloads that we had from the FTP directory. But before we go into that, any file upload or file download vulnerabilities, this is yet another area when you're doing a web app pen test that is going to take some time. What you'll want to do is try to upload, first of all, any kind of exe. See if the application will accept it. Will the application take a very large file, which could produce a denial of service attack, by the way? If you can't upload an exe, can you change your exe to a txt and still upload, it's probably going to be a reverse shell, which is a web shell, right? So see if it'll still take that. All of these things can be written up as vulnerabilities for your assessment. And also, because you'll want to tell the client, well, you should limit the size of the files that you're going to accept, and you should limit the file extensions. You should have some kind of whitelisting, and realize that file extensions and content types have to be validated together, which is usually a programming thing that would need to be done. So you want to have that as a logical and in your code. So what we want to do is we want to see how we can apply that knowledge to the juice box. So we're going to go back to where we had those files in the FTP. And if you remember, some of the files we were not allowed to actually download. So what we want to do is the unauthorized documents we want to try to download, we're going to start with the salesman's forgotten backup file. Okay, so how we're going to do this is we're going to use a common attack that you'll see this done on a lot of CTFs. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to find something and I couldn't find it like directly off the directory, and so I just used the null byte injection and then I found it. So null byte injection is where we basically end the actual name of the file or name of the folder, and then we place a null byte at the end, URL encoded null byte character. And after that, we can append, usually what we can do is append anything that we want. So that's what we're going to be doing here in order to access those files that we're not allowed to download. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. We want to go back to that FTP, which I'm going to browse back to. Okay, so we were not allowed to download the coupons, and I believe that's the, yeah, that's the salesman's forgotten backup. There's this coupons back file. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and turn our proxy intercept on and go ahead and click that coupons. Now you will get the web sockets, just forward past the web sockets until you get to the get command of FTP coupons 2013.md.bak. So what we want to do is use the null byte injection to end this string. So we're going to do that with %. And remember, because of Unicode, we want to go ahead and do a 25. 25 is also %. Then we do a 00. So officially that ends the string. So now we can give it any kind of extension that we want or that we know is preferred by the application. So let's give it .pdf. So we forward that. Now we're getting prompted to actually save the file. So we'll go ahead and save that. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and download some of these other ones as well. I'm going to turn off proxy and start again. Okay, so we want to do the same thing for this package.json. So we want to have our %2500.pdf. And we forward that. And we save that. And go ahead and turn off the interceptor. And then the last one, which is really fun, is this Easter egg. Everybody loves a good Easter egg, so let's go ahead and download that one too. So we'll turn on proxy, and we'll click this, and we do our %2500.pdf. Forward and save the file. Okay, great. And turn off our intercept. If we go back to the scoreboard, you can see that we did find the Easter egg. We did access a developer's forgotten backup file. We also accessed the salesman's forgotten backup file. So those are all done. Starting to see a lot more green on our board. Now, one of the things that I wanted to point out in regards to this developer's backup file is if you cat that file, you're going to see some very interesting listings of dependencies. Now, the dependencies are of interest to us because they're going to help us solve some other puzzles. The reason why it's important from a web app assessment point of view is because this is obviously divulging a lot of information about how the application was built. So that means as an attacker, I can look specifically for a certain library that that app is using and find an exploit in that library, right? Because this particular file not only gives me the name of the library, but gives me the actual version number that was used. So definitely more information than we should ever be having. All right, so we found our Easter egg. Let's continue with the Easter egg. There's an additional puzzle to solve with it. This one is pretty fun. So what we want to do is, let's go ahead and let me minimize this. I'll just open a new one. And it is important that you change into root here, because in order to solve this puzzle properly, I created an alias for you in your bash shell for root, but I'll show you that in just a moment. So first, what we want to do is, in order to go to all of those files that we downloaded, we're going to go to Home, OSBoxes, Downloads, and there you can see all of the files. Now, if we cat the Easter egg, let's go ahead and cat that. It says, "Congratulations, you found the Easter egg." And it's signed the Incredibly Funny Developers. But then they say, oh, wait, no, this isn't the Easter egg at all. It's just a boring text file. The real Easter egg can be found here. Now, I know that this is base64 encoded because I can see the padding at the end, right? So let's use our handy-dandy decoder inside of Burp Suite. I'm just going to copy this, go to my decoder, get rid of that. Control V to paste that in. I'm going to decode as base64. Okay, so that gives me something that looks similar to a file structure, a directory structure. I'm going to Control C that. Now, what you may not realize, and actually, if you did the breaking down security CTF last year, there was a substitution cipher on there. This is also a substitution cipher of a rotation 13, so it's rot 13. So what I've done is on your machine, I have this alias created for you that basically does the rotation of the 13. So all you need to do is at the prompt type echo beginning tick, go ahead and paste in that long string, and then pipe that out to rot 13. Okay, and then you can see that the result is an actual directory location. So if we were to copy that and paste that into our browser, we come up with this very cool planet, which is just awesome. It's pretty resource intensive, so I'm actually gonna have to shut it down, but I wanted you to see it because I think it's really cool. So, and they're calling that advanced crypto analysis to find the Easter egg. So there you go. All right. So going back to our slides. Okay, so if you remember that JSON file that we looked at, let's take a look at that one again. And now that I've shown you this, let's just go to so if I cat the package JSON back, what you'll notice is how it's got a lot of information in here. But this is really of interest to us. Down at the very bottom, they used this library called Z85. So Z85 is just, it's really just an encoding library. And if we take a look at our coupons, if you cat the coupons file, you can see that there's this funny encoding that's being used, right? So we could actually use that library, that Z85, to decode what these values are. And I do believe you have to put quotes around it. Okay, so what we get is a coupon that is good for January of 2013, and it gives a 10% discount. So how can we use that to our advantage? In this particular challenge, it says forge a coupon code that gives you a discount of at least 80%. Well, how about if we give ourselves 90%? So what we would do is we'd take that same Z85. This time we want to encode. And of course, this is June of 2017. And we want to give ourselves 90%. All right, so that gives us a discount code of this really weird looking string. So I'm going to just copy that. And now it's time to go shopping. So let me get rid of these banners. And let's go back to the main page. And let's just start putting some items in our cart. Now let's look at our basket. And you click this yellow present icon. And that brings up the coupon text box. So just go ahead and paste in there our coupon code and redeem. It says we're going to get a 90% discount that will be applied during checkout. So go ahead and check out in order to get credit for the puzzle. And if we come over here, we can see that we did get credit for that puzzle. Okay. All right. Now, file upload validation. This is sort of what I was talking about before as far as trying to not allow every kind of file to be uploaded. There are two puzzles related to file upload. One of them is to upload a file larger than 100 kilobytes. We'll get to that one in just a moment. Let's do this one first. Upload a file that has no PDF extension. So what we want to do is we want to go to the form that is to make a complaint. Okay, so we want to put a message here. Bad site. Okay. And what we want to do is browse for, let me just, yeah, so what I did is I created just a plain file. In fact, it doesn't even have anything in it. It's a TXT file, but I gave it a fake PDF extension. As you can see, it's got 0 bytes. So I'm going to upload that just so that I can actually get it past the first stage of validation. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my proxy tab, turn intercept on, click submit. Now I've caught the request here. I'm going to change my file extension from a PDF to a plain text. Go ahead and forward that. And there you see I solved the puzzle. Now, the next challenge is to upload a file that's larger than 100 kilobytes. Okay, what I wanted to do is I thought it would be cool to bring in your Python skills. So if you go to this directory, home OSBoxes, you'll notice that there's a file upload py. Let's go ahead and cat that. Now, in this code, it's pretty straightforward. All that's happening is we're going to log on via a post using the REST logon, which we've seen. We're going to log in as admin, and we're actually just using SQLi to do so. Create a file called trash.txt that just has to be larger than our 100 kilobyte minimum. And then we do a post on that to the file upload invocation. So let's go ahead and run that with Python. Okay, and there you can see that we successfully solved that puzzle. All right, so at this point, I highly recommend that you go ahead and save your progress so that we can, restore this again the next time that we meet. And I showed you how to do that before, but you just you go into the scoreboard and you go to the bottom, and you're going to just copy this particular continuation code. So just copy it into a TXT file somewhere on your machine. All right, so now the homework. You are going to have to find the missing language file. Now I'm giving you pretty much some good steps here on how to find that, but that is it's a language file that they actually did not implement in production, but they still deployed it, which is commonly done, right? You still have code available on the web server, but not being used. The next homework challenge is to go back in time and to change the cascading style sheet theme to go back to the good old 1990s. So good luck with that one. Homework challenge number 3, wherever you go, there you are. You're going to need to use the Null byte injection to help you with that one. And finally, the last one is to use SQL injection to log into Bender's account. So, and that is session 2. Brian, we're done.
Excellent. Yeah, I was sitting here. I actually got pinged at work. So, does anybody have any thoughts or questions? If you do, we can wait until I stop recording. Otherwise, thanks for listening to the video. Please check out the podcast at BreakSec, on Twitter, breakingsecurity.com. Our RSS feed is breakingsecurity.com/RSS. Thank you again, Ms. Sunny, for your assistance in teaching the course here. And we will talk to you all again next week.
Thank you.